Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to have you here for tonight's call. It is Monday, April 3rd. Can you believe it is April 3rd? Although that just means that we're 2 months or 3 months closer to some wonderful things. And as Peggy Ann told us the other night, it's actually Happy New Year on some calendars. But what we're going to be doing here tonight is just talking all things frequency. So we have a video we want to start off with that I just love. And Lara, if it's ready to go ahead and hit play.
You know how truly powerful your heart is. Your heart has its own electromagnetic field which is connected to the Earth's electromagnetic field. This electromagnetic field expands to create our aura, and we can feel and perceive energy through it as well as send energy out. Our heart's connection is also connected to all of the universe and is connected to the energy of truth. When we are speaking our truth, our heart expands, and when we are out of truth, our heart contracts. We are going through a collective expansion, and as the world is shifting and vibrating, so is our hearts expanding. So you may experience palpitations, high blood pressure, because we and the earth are one. This awakening is happening within us. Learn to connect and ground. You know how truly...
I love the force isn't with you, it is you. Anyway, one of the things I wanted to just start talking about a little bit about luminello, first of all, as we talk about frequencies. And, I know there have been so many people that have said to me when they first started taking it, it's like, oh, you can feel it going through your veins. You can feel it. And I know I felt it. And I know people can, sort of open a jar and go, oh, what is that? Because they feel something. So you may not realize how big of an impact it is. And we're going to hear more about that in just a second, to have luminello as a frequency activated nutrition.
So I wanted to ask Reg, when you were creating luminello, and Joe, as you mentioned, said that he wanted to add frequencies to the powder. What sort of ran through you when Joe mentioned that? Like, how excited were you?
First thing thought of was, why didn't I think of that? Because I'd been so used to doing it in people who had been taking the powder and the pills and that were then. It just, I always like to be first with a new cool idea, right? And it never dawned on me, because here I'd been putting frequencies in essential oils and in distilled water in eyedropper bottles for over 10 years. And it just never dawned on me to put it into the product. And so that was, the first thing I thought of. I thought it was genius, and I was extremely excited. And I knew that the aloe powder, which it looks like powdered crystal, it would hold a frequency. And I also knew that the 84 essential minerals, because they're minerals, will hold frequencies. And as far as the other 12 to 13 ingredients, I just don't know to this day if they hold frequencies, but it makes sense that some of them could, if not all of them, because if you think about it, if you've ever opened a powdered product and it's sticking on the sides because of electricity in the bottle, that's frequency. Okay.
That's my entire jar that I'm going through. My jar is so dense, but not, if that makes sense. It's just like it's like kinetic sand.
Yeah. For the body. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. And then Joe has a lot of experience in formulating. He formulated a product totally by himself with the help of a few other people, but he wanted this, he wanted that, he was in charge. And it was a phenomenal product. My dad looked at the label on the box and said, wow, this is really something. And so when Joe added tamarind, that was his idea. I got excited because I researched it and found that tamarind actually decalcifies the pineal of the brain. And most people do not realize in any way, shape, or form how huge that is, because the water we drink has fluoride, toothpaste, mouthwash has fluoride, which helps calcify the pineal of the brain, and all antidepressants accelerate the calcification of the brain and of the pineal, not the brain, the pineal. And so when you can slowly clean that off, clean it up, you're more intuitive, more spiritual, more in the know, less brain fog. And what the big deal was to me is we've had a lot of school shootings, as we're all aware of, and people going postal, as they say it, even in post offices, shooting employees, which is where the term came from, and a lot of suicides. And when your calcification of the pineal is really thick, you lose your conscience of right and wrong, good and evil. And that's why those things have occurred. And I personally am aware of lawsuits that have occurred against drug companies that do antidepressants, and the victims won in the court of law, and they could not disclose the amount they won because they're able to prove that it does that very thing. And so
what are all these frequencies doing for the body? So we're having the frequencies that are added to luminalo. Like how is the body absorbing luminalo better because of the frequencies?
First off, if you think about it, when you grow a garden, the garden and plants for that matter do what's called photosynthesis, and that's taking energy from the sun and putting it into their plant matrix to protect their DNA and to help generate and protect the next generation of seed for that plant, right? So when we eat the plants, we capture that energy from the sun that's in the plant matrix, and it goes to our cells and into our bodies and makes us function. And that's why we are what's called the body electric. Pharmaceuticals have no light, no energy, no frequency, hardly at all. It's very low, dark, not full of light. And so, plants and foods have that energy from the sun. A good example is the spinach. The leaf sits there all day in the sunlight, gets watered maybe once every 7 to 10 days, and it flourishes and nice, green, leafy, whatever. Whereas if you went out there without a shirt on, a T-top or something, and put your arms out for 4 or 5 hours, you'd be roasted, right? So the plants are, life could not exist in any form without plants and water. So that's how important it is. And so we're taking that, putting it into every cell of our body. The bad news is, our commercialization of the food chain makes it so that the vitamins and minerals are no longer there. They're picking it green, shipping it green. They gas tomatoes in a warehouse to turn them red. You're actually eating chlorophyll, not phytochemicals made by plants from the sun. So it has a longer shelf life. And I'm sure you've all seen vine ripened greenhouse tomatoes versus the other tomatoes on the shelf. Those vine ripens are the ones that have the phytochemicals, and you can always tell in your tongue, if you ever grow in your own garden, what a vine ripened tomato tastes like versus your store bought that tastes like cardboard, because it's chlorophyll. So that's why.
So quick question into that, Reg. When I keep hearing and learning about, using copper in your garden and all of that. Is it the frequency that's going into the plants, or is it being absorbed through the soil?
Well, as far as adding what you're talking about, it is being absorbed from the soil by the plant root, which puts acid on the metal like copper or whatever. And if you want to know the best way on the planet to grow a garden is get your hands on some volcanic soil and just pour it in your garden. Because the minerals from being taken from the center of the earth and spewed out, and then you put that in dirt form into bags and put that in your garden, the plants recognize that it's in their DNA and they just really flourish. Sometimes you'll get 2 or 3 yields for the crop instead of just one, and that applies to fruit trees too. So,
oh no, that would mean gardening never ended and canning never ended. So let's not
winter came till winter came at least.
But, I withdraw that question.
Yeah. But the body is so complex that it needs vitamins, it needs minerals, and vitamins will not work in your body at all without minerals. Minerals will do just fine without vitamins, but vitamins are inert. They do not work without the 84 essential minerals. When we have 84 in our luminalo versus, if you took a daily mineral supplement, not vitamin, but mineral supplement, the most I've ever seen on a label is 24, and we have 84. So it's pretty awesome, and they're all
So
different.
with the minerals, because the minerals can hold the frequencies, does the frequency help the minerals be absorbed faster in the body, or do the minerals, are they just the vessel that carries the frequencies that are healing us into our body?
Both.
Okay.
Both, honestly. Good question. There's copper in your blood, and if you're copper deficient, you're very anemic, right? So there are many minerals that are absolutely essential for homeostasis and optimal health and wellness and a sense of well-being. And so, unfortunately, I don't care if you're one of the world's greatest gardeners or one of the best educated vegans. If you don't understand about vitamins and minerals, you're going to be in a world of hurt. You've really got to understand that protein's essential, and you can get proteins like beans and rice make a complete protein, for instance. And there are other like tofu, things that, but you've got to have protein in your diet. Absolutely have to. And if you don't, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And so the real pandemic that really exists is all the different diseases known to mankind, because they're not getting the nutrition that the DNA knows how to use to heal, repair, and fix just about literally anything. So because of us constantly growing same crop out of the soil and not replenishing the minerals, everybody knows it takes like 47 bowls of spinach to get the same amount of iron that one bowl of spinach had in 1945. That's just the way the world we live in today. And so I'm really glad that rather than be upset about it, I've got a solution for it. And a lot of people say, well, how long do I need to eat this stuff? Well, as long as you plan on eating is how long you need to eat this stuff, because that's what's keeping all these things at bay or eliminating them from your life so they're no longer a part of your life. And what we have literally does not cure anything. It really doesn't. It just gives the DNA what it needs, the brick and mortar, so to speak, to heal and fix almost everything. And it's like vitamin C gets rid of scurvy, right? But if you stop taking vitamin C, the scurvy comes back. And you take the vitamin C, it goes away. And you stop taking it, it comes back. So you want to eat this food, Luminalo, for the rest of your life. And based on a study of 1,000 people, it reverses your age physiologically on 13 biomarkers, including your skeletal structure, by 20 years. My wife just got a bone density DEX scan, and she's 66, and she was told by her doctor, who doesn't know she's taking it, that she has the bone structure of a 37-year-old. Therefore, the odds of her falling and breaking her hip, like most seniors are worried about, are pretty much not going to happen. Or, my mom is 80 and she's broken one shoulder one year and another shoulder the next from a fall. My mom's never taken the product. So anyway, you know how that goes. Family doesn't believe anything. Total strangers will do whatever you say. That's kind of the world we live in, right? And I'm sure a lot of you experience that too.
You can see from the smiles that we have.
Yeah, I can tell.
I just want to jump to Duffy for a moment, or Irene, as she is on the screen. Did you have a new story you want to share with us, Duffy?
Yes, I'm glad that Reg mentioned his wife and her bone density. I just had a bone density, and some of the results were good, some were not so good. Now I'm going to be 80 in a couple of months. I know I don't look it, and I don't plan on looking it ever. She told me that the bones in my back got better, but she also told me that she thinks I have another squished disc, which I'm not pleased about, because I had one in December and I thought I couldn't move, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't lay down, I couldn't sit, I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything. It was excruciating. Anyway, and then it just went away. But then she told me that the bones in my hip didn't change at all. So how is that possible?
That's good news.
It's a time factor.
Is it because the bone is a larger bone than when the bones in my back, or
No.
what?
The reason for that is it's called the white box effect. It's really well known in science. What that means is the body is 100% in charge. You're not. And the body determines what it's going to fix first. That's most important to the body for getting where it needs to go and where it knows it needs to be. So it might work on, like you said, those first bones, but the other ones are second, third, fourth on the list. Some people will take it to lose weight, but weight's not the issue. Your pancreas and your blood sugars are the issue. So it'll work on that first. And some people take it because they want to look younger. Well, looking younger isn't optimal for living quality life. So the body, the DNA will be in charge, and it'll fix whatever the emergency is. That you think about these plates that spin on poles that are at a circus, and they come crashing down, and they're trying to keep them all spinning, get them all spinning at once. And that's the way our body works. And so when something's about to crash, or it has crashed, it's trying to put that new plate up there and get it spinning, and then work on the next most important, and then the next. So it unfortunately, we're not in charge. The DNA is in charge.
Okay.
Reg, I have a quick question maybe it's not a quick question to ask. So I know we need to stay on this because every day our body is being bombarded from our food, from our environment, from, the house we live in, everything. But so for instance, Lara's wrist that is now functioning properly and working, does that stay? Once it's healed, repaired, does it stay?
Yeah, it stays
in that stage. Okay. It's just the ongoing health. So that's why I guess you'd go on a maintenance survey.
Right. In fact, that brings up a good subject of why can't, there are devices that put frequencies into your body that accelerate the healing process. There's several machines. I've owned several of them. And why can't you just use frequencies? And the answer is because man/woman does not live by frequencies alone. You're designed to live on food, and the food's not in our diet. And if you want it to stay, you have to get the right nutrition, or it won't stay. It'll go away. It'll come back, and sometimes with a vengeance. So therefore, you've got to have optimal nutrition, which doesn't exist anymore. And we've gathered these ingredients from all around the world to have this optimal nutrition. It's vine ripened, it's put into a powder. We get each powder individually. Our lab tests every powder of every ingredient every single time to make sure it's the right pH, the right species, the right potency, and they're not trying to be fraudulent with us. We've caught 3 people being fraudulent with us, and we sent the product back and had to wait till we got the right.
And we're glad that you did.
Yeah. So it's not me, it's the corporation with their multi-million-dollar.
Well, yes, I understand that.
Yeah.
And we're about to watch another video, but before we do, I just realized we have, a fair number of guests, or half the people are guests on our call tonight. We haven't properly introduced Reg or who we're talking about here. So Reg McDaniel Jr. Holds 2 very important places in our hearts, maybe 3. So number 1, he is the master distributor with Ascend Sciences. So he's our upline, all of us. Number 2, he is the son of Dr. Reg McDaniel, who developed or was part of developing the original aloe vera product and the foundation of Luminello. So we have all of that. And so he's been working with it for years. In fact, he also has worked with frequency healing for the last 30 some years. Yes. And had a clinic both in Utah and in Vegas, a radio show in both centers as well, way back. I think it was in the 90s, wasn't it, Reg?
Yeah, 1995.
Yeah. So I was rolling tacos and he was sending out good vibes. And so I was trying to heal people with healthy fast food, and he was trying to he was healing people with vibration. So we're going to go into that a little bit more, but I want you to know who he is. And I also want you to know the Joe that we speak of is Joe Ware, the CEO of Ascend Sciences. So that's the people we're talking about. Let's roll this video, Lara, and see where we go from there.
It's one of those miraculous things. Apparently, the reason that honey does that is because of the frequencies of the bees' wings when they're building their honeycombs and when they're creating and bringing in the honey. So it's a frequency of the bee's wings that creates the hexagonal structure of honeycombs. It's also interesting is that the hexagonal structure is a structure of oxygenated and structured water that cures disease. This is really important. If any one of you can go and record the frequency of bees in a beehive, the buzzing of the bee's wings, and you take that frequency to a lab, a biochemistry lab, and you expose a petri dish of viruses, bacteria, and fungus to the frequency of the bee's wings, I suspect that that frequency will kill the bacteria. George Lakhovsky's multiple wave oscillator is a spectacular device with which he cured his father, listen carefully, he cured his father of quadriplegia. You don't cure people of quadriplegia, right? His father was admitted with quadriplegia into the hospital in the USA. 6 weeks later, he walked out on crutches. The way he treated him is every day he walked in there with a little small handheld portable multiple wave oscillator from George Lakhovsky and treated him for about 45 minutes up and down his spine, after which he exposed him to color light therapy for another hour. He did this for 4 weeks, 6 weeks. His father walked out on crutches. I saw the hospital report. It says, Mr. So-and-so exhibited a remarkable recovery. That's it. It's spectacular. They just won't go there. They will not be, engaged in any explanation. In 2011, Anthony Holland, this is now in a TED talk, show us which frequencies kill cancer cells. Very briefly. Okay, he tells us between 100,000 hertz and 300,000 hertz kills cancer cells. And he shows us in a TED talk.
We now know that cancer is vulnerable between the frequencies of 100,000 hertz and 300,000 hertz. So now we attack leukemia cells. Leukemia cell number 1 tries to grow a copy of itself, but the new cell is shattered into dozens of fragments and scattered across the slide. Leukemia cell number 2 then hyperinflates and also dies. Leukemia cell number 3 then tries to make another cancer cell. The new cell is shattered and the original cell dies.
Oh, cool.
So Reg, tell us.
I'd like to address that. Yeah.
Yes.
So he showed you the hertz that shattered the cancer cells. What he didn't mention was it does no harm, does not touch natural healthy cells, just the cancer cells. So there's a specific frequency to cause those to implode and go into pieces. And he was talking about cancer and leukemia, right? Well, if you want to jot this down, I'm just going to read a little tiny bit on the patent. And it was issued by the United States Patent Office. It's patent number 5,106,616. It was issued April 21st of 1992. This is 3 years before I really got heavily involved in this. And my father's name is on the patent, as is Dr. McAnally and Dr. Carpenter. Carpenter was a veterinary medicine doctor, and McAnally was the one who discovered the active molecule in the aloe. And on this patent, it has 6 uses. And one is modulation of the immune system, where if your immune system is too high and it's attacking healthy cells, it brings it down to normal. If it's too low, you have a cold, flu, COVID, something like that, it brings it up to normal, so that doesn't affect you. Enhanced wound healing, they were able to prove that they could accelerate the healing of wounds with the aloe clear leaf gel only, is what this was about. Vaccine systemic adjuvant effect. If they added it to any vaccine, it made the vaccine work better, and it protected the individual, and especially animals, from the side effects of the vaccine. Okay, over 1 billion chicks have been vaccinated with just a granule of this aloe special powder. Then there's general antiviral activity. And here's the biggie: malignant tumor and leukemic cell destruction. Okay, and then the last one says clinical improvement for patients with AIDS, colitis, multiple sclerosis, neuralgia, multiple bacterial and parasitic infections. So that patent has expired. They're only good for 17 years. but the product works, whether the patent is in effect or not.
It's a good thing the aloe vera doesn't know that the patent is up.
Yeah.
You can still keep working.
Can't
Okay.
work anymore. The patent's expired. But, you know, we have over 300 patents issued on over 800 of those kind of deviations from normal that were issued, and 50 genetic disorders. Okay, so that's pretty powerful for just one product. And we're talking just the aloe, which is the chief ingredient in the Luminaloe. When you add it to other ingredients like we have in our Luminaloe mix, it's synergistic, and the aloe causes the ingredient to work better, and 1 + 1 is like 50 or 100 instead of 1 + 1 is 2. It's synergistic. So if you were to take each ingredient on our label and do a search for the research, you'd find literally hundreds, sometimes up to 3,000 studies just on that one ingredient, like the Diascorea. Wild Mexican yam has over 3,000 studies. And when you add the aloe molecule to it, not only does it work, but it works better. And of course, you have to have the right species, because there's 100 species of Mexican yam, but only 8 of them are the right ones that are precursors to all the hormones of the body. So you got to know that, and you got to know what species it is that you put in your product. Otherwise, you can say it's got wild Mexican yam, Diascorea, but it's not the right species, and it does nothing. Absolutely nothing. And same thing goes with aloe. You can get aloe powder in a jar, you can get aloe powder in capsules. It doesn't do any of the things we've been talking about today, because it has to be processed a certain way and have a specific atomic weight, or it will not do any of those things.
It's a good thing that we're in good hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Reg, tell us now, how does the frequencies elevate all of that and bring us back to, I want to know what an oscillating machine is compared to what, because that was back in the, I don't know when, a long time ago. What's going on for us going forward?
Well, back in 1995, we had the first version, and it was in a powder in a jar, was the aloe. And then they had tablets, and they had other tablets, and they had 12 vine ripened fruits and vegetables and another powder. And you had to take all of these things in order for it to work. But it took, without exception, 3 to 4 months, religiously taking it every single day. And finally, you got the results you wanted. What I accidentally discovered and saw when it happened was, when I purchased the Body Scan 2010, which is a biofeedback machine that put frequencies in your body, and it told me what was going on with your body. It wasn't approved to diagnose, but it certainly did. And we kind of kept that on the down low. When I put frequencies into people who were taking the same product back then, they were getting results in 8 to 10 days, 30 days or less even on average. But it just blew my mind. It wasn't, I hadn't signed a thing. I agree to take this 3 to 4 months, or I'm wasting my money and your time, before I even sold them a jar or a bottle or whatever. And so to see macular degeneration, for instance, reversed in 30 days, whereas it took literally one person I had, took them 6 months of just taking the product every single day religiously for 6 months, and they could see again. And then the next 12, I had the machine and I put the frequencies in them, and they were getting their sight back in 30 days. And all the optometrists and ophthalmologists were scratching their heads saying, well, I don't know what it is, but keep doing what you're doing, you know. And so it collapsed time frames, and I came up with the term frequency activated nutrition. It never come up, no one ever said those words, but that's what it looked like to me. I was activating the nutrition in their bodies with these frequencies. So I was so used to doing that for 10 years. I've been doing this for 30, but it just never dawned on me. And I could, like I said, I'd put a bottle of water in the machine. I'd put the frequencies on the water. They'd tap it like that to activate it, put drops under their tongue. It was a homeopathy, but it was distilled water, 100% distilled water, nothing else. And I grew the finger back on a guy that missed about a 1/4 inch of his finger for over 10 years. And he thought I was a charlatan until that happened. But
Then what did he think you were?
well, he was the host of a major radio show, and he said, we'll give you 2 shows for the price of 1. I want to be on every show. I want to help promote this. I want to help you be successful. And that wasn't the only thing that happened to him, but that was one of the most dramatic things. So anyway, the fact that we can put frequencies on the powder, which Joe thought of, is phenomenal. So when you're taking it, we're having people get changes the first day they take it. Not a majority, but there are people that are getting results the first day they take it. And that just blows my mind. And it's all because of those frequencies that are on those powders in that jar.
So,
Can I ask a question?
yes, I was just going to say, we're going to open it up to questions. So go, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
I just want to know, how do you put the frequency in there? Is that with a machine or is it through your?
It's with a machine.
energy?
It's with a machine. Yeah, we have what's called a Fibonacci coil, which is a coiled piece of copper wire that's smaller than a human hair. And so we put that on like a circuit board, you know, of a cell phone size device. And then you take a second one, you stack it on top of that, a third one, you stack it on top of that, and a fourth one, so you have a 4-stack coil of copper wires. When you run your finger over it, it's hardly noticeable that there's 4 there. They're so tiny. And then we put a magnet on the top and the bottom of that coil. Now, magnets can attract and pull together, or they can repel and push apart. So we turn the magnets so they repel and push apart. And then when we put in the frequencies that are coming out of that, they're dancing in this magnetic field that enhances their ability to accelerate the healing process. So that's called a Fibonacci coil. And so using that circuit board with the Fibonacci coil, we send these frequencies through the powder from both sides as it drops down into the jar. It's the last step as it's coming. It's been mixed for, we'll say, hours. I've never seen the process. But as it's coming down the chute to go in the bottle, there's an opening for the powder and it goes in the bottle and the frequencies are going into it. And those frequencies we consider to be proprietary. We don't want to tell everybody how to do what we're doing. And we're the first company to ever create a frequency activated nutraceutical / herbaceutical, which is a new classification of food and herbs that have no side effects, no contraindications, no side effects, and no toxicity. So I do not mind revealing one of those frequencies, and I don't tell you how many. We just added a couple or 3 more in our last batch. But when the Tibetan monks chant, they have this frequency where they go, Om. That's one of those frequencies. It's very therapeutic, very healing. And that's the only frequency I'm willing to reveal. Quite honestly, I don't know all of the frequencies, and I don't need to know, and I don't want to know. It's kind of like I can work on a computer, but I don't need to know how to put one together, kind of thing, or a car. I don't fix cars. I'm not a car guy. I just drive them, right? Trucks. And so that's kind of the answer to that question. Okay.
All right. And we're open to anybody else that has a question. And thank you. It's a great question. Duffy?
Yes,
Nope.
ma'am.
Did you have a question?
She muted herself again,
Oh, okay.
accidentally, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. Anyone else with a question?
I have a question.
Okay.
On that video, so on that video, they were talking about blasting the cancer cells. And from our conversations prior, you've said something that the Rife machine, that technology blast it, as opposed to the Curie, like our device that's coming to market.
Yeah, ours doesn't blast it.
So what is the benefit of what ours is going to do from a healing perspective compared to the blasting of the Rife Hertz?
Number one, we use the frequencies that are going into your body from the Curie device when it's finished, or the frequencies that are in the Luminalo, to strengthen your world of biology in your body, okay? Versus, like, I owned a Rife machine for many years, and it literally shatters a cancer cell. And Dr. Rife, Royal Rife, would write down the numbers of the frequencies as he observed them in his self-created microscope that's in the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., where you could observe a virus and a cancer cell and it would implode. And we don't attack the body, we strengthen the body with the frequencies in this nutrition so that there's not an environment that it can exist in and procreate in and duplicate itself in. The greatest example of that is the AIDS virus. That's what started the ball rolling with this. The AIDS virus is an mRNA duplicating virus. So it uses your DNA to duplicate itself. It then destroys your immune system completely, destroys it. There's no immune system. You start getting cancers and chronic diarrhea, and you get molds and funguses growing on the outside of your skin because you have zero immune system. You get every cold. A cold can kill you. And we had 7 AIDS patients who were given this aloe in a juice form, 1 liter bottle, and they were taking a half a liter a day. And in about a month, their symptoms went away and their immune system was restored. They didn't put back everything that was damaged, put it back to homeostasis. And we had 7 AIDS patients from 7 different states that didn't know each other write the company and say, I just want you to know I was in hospice getting ready to die and started drinking this juice, and you can't even detect it in my blood. I'm going back to school, back to work. Thought you'd want to know. And that's what started the ball rolling into this research. What is it in the aloe that was doing this antiviral thing? Well, the great news is there's a new pandemic today called COVID-19, and taking this product makes you just about bulletproof, but not bulletproof, but just about. So you're not going to get it. And then if you do get it, and my own father, who's not been sick since the day he started this research, actually got COVID at the age of 85, about 2 years ago. And it took him out, and he was in the bed and lost 20 pounds, but he upped his dose of the ingredients in Luminalo and made it through it and started regaining his weight and is still alive today at the age of 86. So even if you got something, I was shocked that he got it, and so was he, but he got it. That's a fact. And he was able to get rid of it instead of die from it because of his old age. And most seniors that age didn't survive, right? There's always an exception, but most of them don't survive. So he's a living testament that this stuff really works. So it stops the mRNA virus, which is COVID-19 also, from duplicating itself. It restores the immune system. And if you were forced to get a stick in the arm, or you did it without knowing better, there's something going on inside of you based on published studies out of doctors in Sweden that are like JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, those kind of studies that prove that this is a engineered virus that reproduces itself in your body, creates long stringy blood clots, creates cardiovascular disease, and people are dying suddenly. Professional athletes have had over 300 deaths in the United States that I know of, just died instantly, died.
And the great news is Luminalo is helping.
Yeah, so this is going to stop the mRNA from duplicating itself in your body if you happen to get a stick. And it's going to restore your immune system that's been being destroyed, and it's going to bring you back to homeostasis. So the sooner you start taking it, if you're in that boat, or you have someone you care about that's constantly getting sick and not healing and not getting better, you need to get this product.
Awesome.
So,
Dana has a question.
Dana has a question.
Hi, my question is, I'm just wondering, does anything affect the frequencies? Like, is there anything that's going to stop the frequencies from functioning, or?
Yes. If you store your product in the jar on your microwave, that's going to destroy it. If you microwave it, that's going to destroy it. If you cook with it or boil with it or bake with it, that's going to destroy it. But if you've taken, like, I like to do Jello shots with Luminalo. You boil your Jello, and it can be sugar-free, and then you put in, after it's cooling down, you stir in your Luminalo, and then you pour it in molds and put it in the fridge. It's not destroyed, and it's working great. It's a great way to take it. So I recommend you put it in yogurt, especially, or kefir, because that's a friendly bacteria for your gut flora. And we do have things in our Luminalo for your gut flora to restore it back to normal. And we also have stuff in our formulation that scrub the villi of your small intestinal tract and gets the mucus off of it, so you can absorb the nutrition, the supplements, and the food that you're eating, rather than having it pass through your body like it was never there. So basically, there's kefir. There's you can take it with water, with milk, and a smoothie. That's the rotary of a smoothie, or one of those wands that blends things in a cup. I don't know what that's called.
The frother.
Yeah,
Carol does that.
A frother's not going to destroy it. Okay.
But not having it near like any kind of, like everybody has so many Bluetooth devices and so forth.
That's not going to be a factor.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Great question. Thanks, Dana. I never even thought of that. Anybody else have a question? Or comment or thoughts, something you want to share?
May I ask something?
Yes, Peggy Ann.
Thank you. You said you use the Fibonacci coil when it goes into the jar.
Mhm.
And is that the same as the Curie? And also, can we use the Curie to put frequencies into food after we get the Curie?
You're saying something with a J, jury or?
Curie.
The Curie.
Oh,
So
Curie.
once we get the
Like a
Curie,
J
can we
sound,
also
sorry.
put more frequencies in our food?
Yes. In fact, you can copy frequencies of other things with your Curie and put them into an eyedropper or a chewable because it has water in it. And that applies to pharmaceuticals as well. You can I would put the frequencies of, for instance, some medication that was used for blood sugar, very common, into the water, and then I would succuss it on my hand, put it on my tongue, and I got all the benefits of the drug without any of the side effects of the drug. So yeah, you'll be able to do that. You can copy, let's say you're down to your last bottle of chewable melatonin, you can copy the frequency of the melatonin and put it into your smoothie, or put it into, just put your glass on top of your Curie, which is the size of a cell phone, and hit the button and it puts the frequencies into there. So there's going to be a lot of benefits, including, there's a lot of controversy. I've read a lot on it on 5G, and it'll actually put up a shield when it detects 5G, protect you from the tower, the cell phone, the 5G network, kind of like a force field, if you will.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Merity, she wants to know if we can get the frequency for wine. That was so funny, Verity. Like, what frequency is wine, even if it's not the color of red?
Or we can add frequencies to wine.
There you
that
go.
works too.
You guys are really bad.
Yes, you are.
That's highly possible.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share or ask or speak now or forever hold your peace? Yes, Wendy, go. Unmute yourself.
How could I skip this? So I have a number of people I've been talking to, and they all are near and dear, and they all are in terribly bad health. And the first thing they're saying is, well, I have to check with my doctor.
Yes, just ask your doctor if you can eat food. If food's going to interfere with anything he recommends. I'm dead serious.
I know.
All you need to do is ask your doctor if you can eat food while you're on this medication or following his instructions. Am I allowed to eat food? He doesn't have to know what food. It's food. It has no side effects, no contraindications, nothing. It cannot interfere. You're eating food. It's just a new classification of food. Okay.
Well, they're just saying, well, it might not work well with my meds. And I'm kind of just, so I'm giving them information, but I'm leaving it with them. I can't convince them,
The only side effect that we've seen is that the doctor tells them they don't need the medication anymore, or they don't need as much as the medication. My best friend Rich was on heart medication and beta blockers for 20 years and got involved with the Luminello. And his doctor said he needed to get rid of 3 medications, didn't need them anymore, and that his beta blockers could be reduced at half dosage. Okay, so those are positive things, I think.
But in truth, my suggestion is always telling them, why don't you check with the pharmacist? He'll know better what is or is not a contraindication with your drugs. And the doctor wouldn't know because they don't study that. The pharmacist does. And so that's really what I advise people to do, because I know there are some people, they're afraid, they've had scares, they've had, whatever it is. So I can understand that. It makes them nervous. And the other thing that's going to happen is this is going to make their drugs more effective. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Reg, but
it helps
more
the
effective.
drug work better without the side effects. It protects you from the side effects. And it makes the drug work better. The best example I have of that is AZT. We did an experiment on that, which turned out to be of no help to AIDS patients at all, was the bottom line. But back then, it was the only thing they'd come up with. And the goal was to kill the AIDS virus before they killed the patient, because they were killing the patient with the AZT. And when they started taking the aloe powder or the aloe juice, they needed 1/14 the dosage of AZT to get the same effects they had with full dosage. And the patients weren't dying at all.
Yeah.
So does it also make the drug work more effectively?
If it's a drug that's going to work, there's very few that do.
Okay,
if it works.
there's
Yeah.
that, yes.
Yeah, my husband had 3 major heart attacks in 2 days last summer, and he shouldn't be here, but because like we were on other products and we were in good health, and he managed to pull through. Got COVID because it was there too, and so he's on a whole bunch of medicines. And so one small concern of mine is that it won't be effective enough in time for his next doctor appointment, so they'll take him off meds. That's my biggest
Your hope.
thought right now is, you know, he's going in for tests later the end of this week, and I'm just hoping that he's been on it long enough that they're seeing a difference. Because
How much is he taking?
Well, I got a wrong message and got the right message. He's taking 2 in the morning, 2 at night.
2 teaspoons?
Yeah.
Well, I'd recommend he takes 2 teaspoons, a minimum of 3 times a day. Ideally 4 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and before going to bed. Because the more messed up you are, the more you need to take and saturate your body with what it's been craving for. And then you can back off to the daily maintenance recommended on the label, which is 2 teaspoons twice a day.
Okay.
Thanks, Reg.
Thank you.
We have another question. Mary asks, I have bunions and bones of fingers and the bones of her fingers are bent. Will this product improve the bones? And since I started, my neck at times is feeling like it's cracking. Yay, Mary. I'm excited. Okay, sorry, Reg,
Well,
now answer the question.
To answer that question, contrary to what most people say, I have some good news and I have some great news. Which do you want to hear first? The good news is, yes, it will help. Okay. It will take longer because all we have is luminaloe. But the great news is when the curie's done, it'll happen a lot faster, because when I combine the two, which I've done, I had a woman who hadn't played the piano in 3 years and had arthritic fingers. And in just 1 hour of adding frequencies to her, she was able to play the piano. And that was amazing. And that's not going to hold unless she takes the luminaloe. Okay. What I've noticed and observed is, like with a sleeping disorder is a really good example. We had a gentleman who couldn't sleep more than 3 hours for the past 10 years because his wife was murdered in his arms in another country. So when we put the frequencies in him for sleep, he thought it was a nothing burger, and he was an iridologist, an extremely good iridologist. And that night he slept 9 hours, and that continued for 10 days. On the 11th day, he was back to 3 hours. So all he could sleep was 3 hours, then he was up again. So we went back and put frequencies in him again. And then he's now got normal 8-9 hour sleep pattern for the first time in his 20 years, since his wife was taken away. So 10 days, it seems to be how long frequencies last with what we're dealing with here. And then you've got to do it again. And that's, whereas with the luminaloe, it's going to hold, and you won't have to just be doing maintenance once in a while kind of thing eventually.
And Mary, to answer about the neck cracking, I celebrate every time my bones crack now, like my neck or my spine or my shoulders, I was just basically frozen solid and trying to survive. So that was something that happened also very soon. I think mine took about 10 days before I felt my first sort of movement, but I was in very bad shape. My neck was so compressed, all my fingers were numb. So, and that's not fixed completely yet, but it goes in and out and off and on. So I know that it's going, but the cracking of the joints, my chiropractor told me that was very good news, he said, because he said that's movement. That means there's something happening between all the discs and joints. So it's good.
And one thing I'm really excited about is you've got Melody and Lara that are the leaders in Canada. They got the ball rolling. Melody was the first person to get the product in Canada. I sent her a jar and it changed her life.
It did.
Dramatically.
And continues to change my life
Yes, it
every day.
does. And
Yeah.
so they require the least amount of help and maintenance when I'm helping leaders. That you've got top-notch leaders. I count on them to mentor me sometimes on great leadership ability, because I'm the science guy and the master founding distributor of the company. So anyway, you guys are really fortunate to have them as your team leader.
Thank you, Reg.
Yes.
Thank you all, everybody. All right, before we go, is there any last questions or thoughts? Dwayne, you have something?
I had a couple questions that I always
Okay.
keep forgetting to ask, a little bit
Sure.
off topic. But the one that hit me here tonight, and I wish we'd have thought of it earlier. I wanted to ask Reg whether is anybody, and I wish I had done it. When we're taking this Aluminalo product, does it actually affect or does it change our pH level of the body? Have you ever done any studies of that?
We've got over 20,000 studies. I have not read all 20,000. It would take me years. I have hard copies of 400 in my possession, and not seen a single study on pH, other than I have a study on the importance of quality of water you're consuming. The water in our drinking system isn't that great, so you might want to consider some kind of a water filter that emergency survival people use. We have one called a Berkey, and there's other brands, out there that take literally will take the fluoride out of the water, for instance. And so you want to have quality water, and you've got to test your water pHs on your bottled water. Some of them are more acidic than your tap. So there's a YouTube video. If you go pH in bottled water, if you do a search for that, they have like 9 or 10 bottle brand names that we're all familiar with, I think. And they have pH strips for every one of them in a different glass. And it's a real eye-opening experience. So you want to have good quality water. Cancer can't exist in a positive pH. That's a Nobel Prize winning award that was proven, as well as oxygenated. Cancer can't thrive in oxygen. So you want to have oxygenated blood. Whether that's through a chamber, that pushes oxygen into your body, or you can have oxygenated water that you can drink, doing deep breathing, exercising, get the air and the stale air out of your lungs, and all of that oxygenates your blood. So all those things are positive. And when you do cardio, that's all about oxygen and such. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, no, you basically summed it up there. I just wondered about the levels.
Yeah, we haven't done a study on pH people taking the product. No,
I haven't either. I used to take these pH level tests because I read some place where I think the body's 7.2 or if it's healthy, and if you're on the acid side, you get sick.
Yeah,
or something like that.
And cancer thrives. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, my other question was, this is going back, I keep forgetting to ask it. I've asked Melody to look into it. Maybe she's asked you on some of my missing meetings. When we get to Curie, I've been meaning to ask, is there any kind of an insurance policy if we drop that thing and smash it, we can get it replaced? It's just something to consider.
Well, I was with another company that had a policy like that, whereas if you dropped it in water or something, instead of paying the full price, you paid around $850 with that company. And I'm sure we'd match something similar to that, from people being, having accidents. But I'm not corporate. That's really a corporate question. It will have a warranty. I don't know if it'll be 1 year or 2 year. If I were to guess, give my best guess based on conversations.
Well, it's not so much a warranty. It's like I'm really hard on cell phones, right? Like,
yeah,
I never get my phone paid for before it gets
well.
For some
In your
reason
situation, what I'd recommend is that you don't put your SIMS card into the Curie. Okay.
No, no.
Use
it's
your
not
cell
gonna be
phone for a
used.
cell phone, and don't put your SIMS card in the Curie to make it into a cell phone as well. Which if you do that, it will not interfere with the Curie, but you won't have to carry 2 devices around. You should carry 2 devices.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just thought I've been meaning to ask that.
I'm terrible with clothes. I tear up clothes like you wouldn't believe. So I get very cheap clothes because I know I'm going to tear a hole in them or something, you know.
Okay. That's all I wanted to ask.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. What a fun call this has been. I took notes. How many of you have got extra notes now and know just a little bit more than before we started tonight? So kind of exciting stuff. Thank you again, Reg, for being here with us. Thank you to all of you who have joined us and to all the guests. And we'll be back next week. We're going to be doing a call on the comp plan and kind of not just the comp plan, but how this all threads together and works, because a lot of you have been asking those questions. So we're going to pull some of that together and talk about why it's just a very sweet reward to share this with people that you care about and love. So that's what we'll be doing next Monday night. In the meantime, there are corporate calls Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and I will send out a notice because I know a lot of you who are new are not probably getting those notices from corporate yet. So when I get mine, I will pass that on through our email and you'll be able to get into those calls as well. Reg does a great call on Wednesday nights on the product. Sometimes Joe joins in on Wednesdays and talks a little more about what's going on, well, wherever he's focused in that moment. And then Thursdays are more of a corporate update and more often talk about the Curie and the pre-purchase program that's available for that. And then Saturdays are a team call where we talk about whatever happens or wherever we go. So, and so it's always a very informative Saturday morning as well. So on that note, we'll say farewell to all of you. Thank you. It's been a slice. And thanks again for all the information, Reg. And we'll see you somewhere over the week or next Monday.
Well, thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you.